Hi friends, my name is Darlene and welcome to Sanctuary Church. So glad that you have joined with us. Let us know your name and where you're connecting in from, and we want to support you in any way that we can. So let us be sure to comment and let us know. Let's worship right now.
Sometimes on this journey, I get lost in my mistakes. What looks to me like weakness is a canvas for your strength. And my story isn't over, my story's just begun. Failure won't define me, 'cause that's what my Father does. Failure won't define me, 'cause that's what my Father does. Ooh, lay your burdens down. Ooh, here in the Father's house. Check your shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. Ooh, you're in the Father's house. It's not the end game, the journey's where you are. You never wanted perfect, you just wanted my heart. And the story isn't over if the story isn't good. Failure's never final when the Father's in the room. Failure's never final when the Father's in the room. Ooh, lay your burdens down. Ooh, here in the Father's house. Check your shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. Ooh, you're in the Father's house. Prodigals come home, the helpless find hope. Love is on the move when the Father's in the room. Prison doors fling wide, the dead come to life. Love is on the move when the Father's in the room. Miracles take place, the cynical find faith. Love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. Jericho walls are quaking, strongholds now are shaking. Love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. Love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. Ooh, lay your burdens down. Father's house. Check your shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. Ooh, you're in the Father's house. Ooh, lay your burdens down. Ooh, here in the Father's house. Check your shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. Ooh, you're in the Father's house.
Hey, thank you again for worshiping together with us and gathering together with us online. We always love the opportunity we have to gather together. And last week, we were actually able to gather together in person. We met at the facility here on the corner of Yale and Coy Road. We met outside. It rained a little bit, but we had a tent. But we were able to worship together. And there were some hugs. There were some handshakes, all appropriate. It was just good to see faces, to see smiles, to hear voices, and to be together. Our next in-person gathering is Sunday, July the 18th. And if you're in the Chilliwack area, we would love to have you gather with us as we worship together, take communion together, and look to Jesus together as we follow him. But that's our schedule. Every month we're gathering for worship. But that doesn't mean we only want to connect monthly. We want to connect way more than that. There are our weekly dinner parties, and we'd encourage you, if you're not able to be a part, if you're not a part of one yet, please lean in, connect with us, let us know how we can help you get connected. And even beyond that, as things are opening up more now and it's getting easier to get together, I want to encourage you, connect with people. One of our core values is we move towards people. And this is a season where we want to really lean into that, to send a text, send a phone call and say, hey, let's go for a coffee. Let's share a lunch. Let's get together for dinner outside on our patio. Let's go for a walk, whatever it is. It's getting easier to do that. And so we want to encourage you that we're leaning in and moving towards people. We don't want to keep our relational circle small. We want to be appropriate with all the COVID precautions, but we want to be enlarging our relational circle and encouraging people as we just lean in together. And so it was awesome to be together last Sunday. We're looking forward to July 18th, but we're also looking forward to all kinds of opportunities, weekly dinner parties, and then other opportunities throughout the week to just connect with people. And we encourage you to do the same. When we gathered together last week, we looked at Jesus' teaching about the cost of discipleship, the cost of following him. And he invites all of us who would follow him to deny ourselves and take up our cross. And so we looked at that, and Jesus says, and he sets the example for us. He doesn't ask us to do anything he's unwilling to do. He sets that example. He says, there's a cost to following me, a cost of denying yourself, a cost of taking up your cross, laying down your life and following him. So this week, we want to lean into this a little bit more and look at some specific outworkings of what denying ourselves and taking up our cross, loving others at a cost to ourselves could actually be. So we're in Mark chapter 10, and so we're going to start there. Mark chapter 10, verses 35 to 45. Here's another example in the life of Jesus. It says this, then James and John, sons of Zebedee, came over and spoke to Jesus. Teacher, they said, we want to ask you a favor. What is your request? He asked. They replied, when you sit on your glorious throne, we would like to sit in the places of honor next to you, one on your right and the other on your left. But Jesus said to them, you don't know what you're asking. Are you able to drink from the bitter cup of suffering I'm about to drink? Are you able to be baptized with the baptism of suffering I must be baptized with? Oh, yes, they replied, we are able. Then Jesus told them, you will indeed drink from my bitter cup and be baptized with my baptism of suffering. But I have no right to say who will sit on my right or my left. God has prepared those places for the ones he has chosen. When the 10 other disciples heard what James and John had asked, they were indignant. So Jesus called them all together. Okay, boys, let's talk about this again. And said, you know that the rulers of this world lord it over people, and the officials flaunt their authority over those under them. But among you, among my followers, it must be different. Whoever wants to be a leader among you must be your servant. And whoever wants to be first among you must be the slave of everyone else. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others and to give his life as a ransom for many. Jesus had just recently finished talking to his disciples and calling them to deny themselves, to take up their cross and to follow him. And they, like us, would say, yes, we will. You have our yes. And then just shortly after that, these two disciples come to Jesus and they can ask if they can sit in the seats of honor and authority next to him. They completely missed the implications of denying ourselves and taking up our cross. And as I was thinking about that, I thought, you know what? I can do that as well. And perhaps you be vulnerable to the same thing. Sometimes it's easy to say, yes, Jesus, I'll follow you. Yes, Jesus, I'll deny myself. Yes, Jesus, I'll take up my cross and follow you for your sake. But there's a myriad of implications to that. And it's incredibly important that each of us as followers of Jesus take some time and allow Jesus to speak to us about the implications of that. It's too easy to just rush on after Jesus says something. We're like, amen, yes, we're all in, and not actually consider some of the implications of what Jesus is calling us to. Once again, Jesus sets the example for us. This isn't Simon Says, where he stands apart from people and he says, you should do this, you should do this, and you should do this. No, this is Jesus saying, hey, watch me. I'm going to set an example for you about serving others at a cost to myself, of coming under people, of taking the lowest position instead of the highest position. And that's the example I'm going to set for you, and I want to ask you to follow that example. I want you to do the same. Jesus calls us to be people that serve other people, that take the lowest position, that come under others and love people at a cost to ourselves, that know that in the world's eyes, the greatest is going to look like the least, and that is right where Jesus wants us to be. So I want to talk for a few minutes about being a people that serve others, developing a culture of serving, of sacrificial giving of ourselves. And I know when we begin to talk about serving, my natural default is to default to tasks. What can I do for something? I'm helping a friend move tomorrow. I mowed my neighbor's lawn the other day. And there's all kinds of those tasks. You think, okay, I want to serve people. And so what tasks can I do for people? And those are wonderful. I want to encourage you. If you can help someone move, you can mow someone's lawn, if you can drop a meal off for someone, if you can drive someone somewhere, or just, help out in some practical, tangible way, those are fantastic opportunities to do that. Those are good things to do. And hopefully all of us as followers of Jesus are willing to do that, and then even moving from just a responsive posture where someone would say to us, hey, could you help me? And we'd say, absolutely, I'm more than willing to help. And that's a great posture to be in. But imagine taking another step forward and be in the initiating posture, just looking around your world and the people that are involved in your world and asking, hey, how could I help you with that? Or is there any way I could help you with that? Again, it's wonderful to be willing to help and take a responsive posture, but it's even greater when we can be initiating and say, how can I help? But there's an even more important area of service I want to look at than just tasks. Tasks are important, but there's other ways that we can express Jesus' love. See, an even greater way we can serve people and demonstrate the love of Jesus is when we commit to building relationships and maintaining relationships with people despite our differences. Even when we would disagree on some points, to say, I'm committed to building a relationship with this individual. I'm committed to maintaining a relationship. See, our commitment to people should be greater than our commitment to a position. That doesn't mean that we need to change our position or say that our position is wrong, but it does mean we don't divide over those differences. See, in calling his followers to a life of serving others, Jesus talks about people lording it over others and saying that it must be different for us. Well, one of the ways we lord it over people is when we judge them. To judge someone is to put yourself in a place of authority over someone, apart from someone, above someone, and make a judgment on their life, their condition, their position, whatever it might be, and say, this is right or this is wrong. And we've kind of put ourselves above them. We show that we are better, or what we think is better, or what is right. And the church, or the community of people following Jesus, becomes a group of people who all think the same about issues, and we think it's okay to divide over our differences. And we need to learn to see things from other people's points of view. This is one of the ways we serve, one of the ways we come under, one of the ways we love people at a cost to ourselves. We don't hold our positions above theirs. Again, this doesn't mean you change your position. I'm not saying that. Although I think it's appropriate that all of us, whatever our positions on anything would be, we hold them with a humility, enough humility that we would be open. As truth would be revealed to us, as Holy Spirit would speak in our lives, that there would be a readiness, a willingness in each of our lives to change. I think it would be the height of arrogance to say, nope, I'm absolutely certain there's no moving on this. The way I see this is the right way. Any other way is the wrong way, and I am unwilling to move. I don't think that's Jesus saying, serve others at a cost to yourself, come under them. I think there needs to be a confidence in what we believe, absolutely, but a humility enough to say, you know what, as I would walk with Jesus and as I would walk with people, I'm open to there could be some shifting in things as we move forward. And so we live in a world that is filled with conflict. Opinions, beliefs, and worldviews are as varied as the number of humans on this planet. And most of us, I like to think that I'm a pretty tolerant individual. Probably most of us would like to think that of ourselves, that we're pretty tolerant. We're tolerant of people who would be different than us. We know that it's important to show love to people around us, and we really do try to do that. And I think we do, honestly, all try to do that. But if we're honest, sometimes we can find ourselves only open to relationships with people that think like we do, live like we do, look like we do. People that see things the way we see things. It's human nature to push back when we hear someone express an opinion that is what we might even believe to be an outrageous opinion. And how we have to ask ourselves, how do we genuinely show love for someone who, in our opinion at least, is wrong about some things? And how do we make other people feel loved, even if we don't see eye to eye about anything? How do we follow the instructions of Jesus and say, take the lowest position, serve, come under? See, when we choose to accept that every one of us is imperfect, all of us, that every one of us are broken and under the influence of sin, and to look past the things we don't like or agree with and love people anyway, this is serving people. This is coming under people. This is loving people at a cost to ourselves. This is demonstrating the love of Jesus. This isn't ignoring our differences. This isn't saying they aren't different. This isn't saying it doesn't matter. But this is saying even in spite of our differences, we love anyways. Because in our differences, as we step towards others, as we move towards people, in listening to them and in loving them for who they are, without trying to change them, without trying to fix things, without trying to correct things, just simply loving them. We talked about this last week. What if our only agenda was to love? We draw closer together with them. And as we do that, we both experience the transforming love of Jesus. As we love people like Jesus, we experience the love of Jesus. And they experience the love of Jesus. And it is the love of Jesus that changes hearts and that transforms lives. So I'd like to just talk for a couple minutes about, here's a few suggestions about how this can work its way out in our lives, how we can build relationships and how we can maintain relationships with people despite our differences. Even when we may say, I'm on this end of the spectrum and you're on that end of the spectrum and I don't see a whole lot of movement. How do we love each other and serve each other in that space? Well, first one is keep an open mind. Just keep an open mind, that we would be willing to hear opinions that would be different than the opinions we would hold to, and to learn about worldviews, positions, and perspectives that we may not agree with. But that's okay. We're just going to keep an open mind. A sure way to shut down a conversation with someone before it even gets started is to express judgment or condescension right at the top. Well, I can't believe anyone would believe that. Well, there's probably a world full of people who believe that, whatever that is. And I'm not trying to suggest that that is right or that is wrong, but the people who hold to that are deserving of love, because as Jesus shows us, they're to be considered of unsurpassable worth. And we're called to serve them, to deny ourselves, to take up our cross, to love them at a cost to ourselves. See, if our goal is to genuinely show love to others, to serve others, even people who we disagree with, to treat each person we would encounter with love they deserve, to listen to them. I'm not listening to try to change their mind. I'm listening to learn more about who they are, how they think, what they understand. This makes people feel loved and respected, and it opens the doors for relationship where love can be shown. So the first thing is keep an open mind. The second thing, look for common ground. Every person, again, we've said this before, every person is someone of unsurpassable worth, regardless of their opinions and their worldviews. And we need to learn to view people through the lens of love and then look for ways that we can connect on a deeper level. Now, it may take a little while to say, okay, what do we actually have in common? And maybe the only thing we have in common is that we happen to have the same number of children, or we like the same ethnicity of food, or we like the same kind of coffee, or we like the same kind of music, or whatever. We both live in the same city. Like, again, it might take a little while to find some common ground, but find some common ground. We live in a world where it is too easy that the first thing we notice is our differences, and we highlight our differences, and we emphasize our differences, and whenever we do that, it drives us apart. And that's not denying ourselves, that's not loving others or serving others. You say, okay, let's find some common ground. And we find that common ground, and we focus there. And then as our relationship grows and deepens, we may find, you know what, there's some more common ground and some more opportunities for discussion about some of our differences and how we think that or believe that or whatever it may be, and opportunities abound to express love. Number 3, listen closely. We live in a social media age and a cancel culture where someone posts something, says something, tweets something, and you've got 140 characters, and all of a sudden you make an assumption or an assessment about them, and they're done. How could they think that? How could they believe that? How could they hold to that position? And there's no listening, there's no nuance, there's no context, there's just, they're done. Well, that's not denying ourselves. That's not serving others. That is lording it over people instead of coming under. And so we need to learn to listen. We need to learn to ask, okay, help me understand that. And it's even harder to listen in person. We hear people speaking and we think, my mind can get running away and think, wait a minute, where is this going? And we can get worried and fearful. And guess what? Jesus doesn't need us to defend him. Jesus isn't afraid of questions. Jesus isn't afraid of positions other than he would know is best for us. He came and he stepped into the world and he engaged with people who held all manner of other positions, and he made them feel loved and welcome. He denied himself, if you will, and served them. We need to stop thinking about our argument, as we're listening to someone say, how can I respond to this? How can I rebut that position? How can I show them how much of an error they're in? And instead of stop thinking about how I can win this argument and continue thinking about how can I show love to this person? How can this individual know in this moment that I consider them to be of unsurpassable worth? I'm going to serve them. I'm going to come under. We need to, pay attention to the emotions the other person's expressing. Pay attention to the tone that they're expressing to try to understand where they're coming from. We need to lean in and really listen. It's that simple. It's that simple and it's that clear. It's not always that easy. And finally, number 4, seek understanding. We want to learn to understand first. Instead of questioning the validity of other person's opinions or beliefs, ask questions, be curious, genuinely try to understand their position. Even if you may not agree with it, but just say, hey, help me understand that. Even if we never fully agree, we'll learn something new and we'll let people know that they are loved enough to be listened to, loved enough to say, I really do want to understand you. And relationship is built in understanding each other. Relationships aren't built in agreement. Agreement isn't the foundation of relationship. Say, well, unless we agree, we can't have a relationship. No, that's not it at all. That's a lie. There can be great relationships where we say, you know what, we would disagree on some things, but we know that each of us is of unsurpassable worth, and we love each other, and we work diligently to serve each other. There's some significant things we disagree on, but we show love to one another. And this requires us serving people, taking the low position, coming under, not lording it over in judgment. We love other people at a cost to ourselves. Now, let me just, in closing, give you a personal example of how this is landing in my life, of how this is getting worked out in the situations of my day. And I got permission to share this story. But I recently had someone who's close to me come to me and tell me that they want the pronouns that they wanted to be referred to had changed. They no longer wanted to be referred to as he or him. Instead, they wanted to be referred to as they and them. And they were explaining this to me, and as I was listening to this in my mind, there's arguments that are going right away. And the first one I thought, well, that doesn't even make grammatical sense. Like, wait a minute, this is, and so there was the grammatical argument that's rolling around in my head, and then there's this biological argument that's rolling around in my head, and I wanted to just say, yeah, but what about this? But what about this? And all these thoughts were going, but thankfully, in that moment, and it wouldn't happen all the time, but thankfully in that moment, I was able to keep those thoughts to myself and respond with, hey, can you help me to understand why this change? And so we talked for a while, and the conversation carried on, and they explained a little bit more about where they were coming from, what was going on. And so, okay, then I responded to them, okay, so your preferred pronouns are they and them. To which they responded, don't say preferred. They're not my preferred pronouns. They're my pronouns. And again, we had some more discussion about that. Now, again, I'm alluding to a much larger issue. And I'm not trying to push an agenda, and I'm not trying to say I understand it. In fact, there's lots I don't understand, and there's pieces of it I don't agree with. And so it's not about that, but it's saying, okay, I have an opportunity in this moment to try to win an argument, to try to push an agenda, or to recognize every single person, regardless of position or perspective, is of unsurpassable worth. And Jesus calls me to deny myself, take up my cross, love others at a cost to myself, to take a low position, not lord it over others. And so I don't understand all this. And again, it's going to work itself out differently in your life than it perhaps is working itself out in my life in this situation. And it's not about this particular situation or scenario. It's about saying, if we're really going to follow the example of Jesus to serve others, to not lord it over others, and to love others at a cost to ourselves, we're going to give place for differences. We're not going to divide over differences. We're not going to consider it a given. Well, of course, unless there's agreement, we can't be in relationship. No, that's not it at all. If there has to be agreement, if it has to be what I think, then I'm not denying myself. I'm not dying to myself. I'm lording it over and say, it's got to be this. This is costly love. This is awkward. This is harder. This is more uncomfortable. This is all of the above. And it is exactly what Jesus calls us to, because it's in those places of costly, uncomfortable, awkward love, the brilliance and beauty of Jesus' love is on display. And it's Jesus' love that transforms lives. And it's Jesus' love that I experience in those moments, and Jesus' love that the others experience in those moments. And so that's what we want to talk about. And so, again, it's one thing, as we looked at last week, to say, yes, I'm going to deny myself, and yes, I'm going to take up my cross, and those are wonderful things, but there are some real practical implications of how that gets worked out. It's not for me to say what they should be or shouldn't be in your life, but just to share with some of you what it's looking like in my life. So here's a few questions to consider. There's actually 4 questions this week. But I want to first, well, the first one's not so much a question as hopefully an encouragement, that we would each ask Jesus to show us an implication of denying ourselves and taking up our cross for him. Again, it's one thing to say that, but it's another thing to say, okay, Jesus, what practical outworking should that have in my life? I want to deny myself. I'm ready to deny myself. I'm ready to take up my cross for you. So where are you going to put your finger on in my life today? And allow him to lovingly do it. So just ask Jesus. Get your journal out, get a pen out, quiet yourself, and just ask Jesus. And he'll speak and he'll show you. And he'll say, hey, what about, here's an implication. And it may be something you've already been aware of. You say, oh yeah, you're right. I'm thinking about that for a while. And then just walk with Jesus as you live that out. Secondly, this question, how has this talk enlarged your view of serving others beyond tasks? It's important that we still are willing to do things for people. but there are greater implications to serving people than just doing tasks for them. So in what ways has this kind of say, wow, there's other ways I can serve people? Number 3, why is it so hard to build relationships or to maintain relationships in the face of significant differences? Sometimes we don't even try to build a relationship with someone because you think, you know what, they're not like me, I'm not like them. They see it one way, I see it another way. And we kind of say that those are valid reasons to not try to build a relationship. Well, perhaps not in looking at Jesus' call to deny ourselves, take up our cross, take the lowest position, come under, not lord it over, and serve people. Why is it so hard, though? And finally, number 4, how does doing this, loving people this way, serving people this way, how does doing this demonstrate the love of Jesus? Because at the end of the day, that's the goal, that the world would see the love of Jesus, that we would know the love of Jesus, that others would know the love of Jesus. This isn't about us just having more friends or different friends, or we're trying to have a group of people around us who are different than us. This is about saying the brilliant love of Jesus needs to be seen in our world because it transforms lives, it transforms neighborhoods, transforms cities, and we want to participate with him in demonstrating that so that people could experience his love. And so how does doing this demonstrate the love of Jesus? Hey, I hope you'll take some time to wrestle with this. Like I shared this one instance in my life. I'm wrestling with it. There's things I don't like. There's things I say, you know what, I'd really rather be able to just disagree and leave. It'd be more comfortable, it'd be less awkward. But Jesus doesn't give me that space. He says, no, stay in the awkward, stay in the uncomfortable, wrestle with this and learn more about my love for you and my love for others. So I want to encourage you, however that gets outworked in your life, that you're going to take the time to wrestle with it. Allow Jesus to show you some of the practical implications and outworkings of this as we say, yes, we really do want to follow Jesus in every hour of every day of our week, in all the different settings that we're in. Hey, let me close in prayer and then we're going to worship again. Jesus, thank you that in all you call us to, you lead the way. You set a beautiful example before us. You loved us at a cost to yourself. You served us at a cost to yourself. When we had different worldviews and different positions and all those things, you drew near to us. You engaged in relationship with us. You pursued us. You didn't stand apart from us in our differences. You leaned in and came towards us. And we want to follow your example and do the same. So help each and every one of us, and that in that process of following you, we would know your love to a greater degree, and others would know your love to a greater degree, and hearts would be transformed by the love of Jesus. In your name we pray. Amen. Hey, thank you again for gathering with us. We look forward to sharing the love of Jesus with Chilliwack and whatever city you may find yourself in, and seeing people experience his transforming love. Let's worship together again.
How great the chasm that lay between us, how high the mountain I could not climb. In desperation, I turned to heaven and spoke your name into the night. Then through the darkness, your loving kindness soared through the shadows of my soul. The work is finished, the end is written. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Who could imagine so great a mercy? What heart could fathom such boundless grace? The God of ages stepped down from glory to wear my sin and bear my shame. has spoken, I am forgiven. The King of Kings calls me his own. Beautiful Savior, I'm yours forever. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Came the morning that sealed the promise. Your buried body began to breathe. Out of the silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on me. Oh, come on, you guys, sing that out. Then came the morning, then came the morning that sealed the promise. Your buried body began to breathe. Out of the silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on me. Jesus, yours is the victory. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Oh God, you are my living hope. My living hope.
Hey, friends, thank you so much for joining us. What a powerful word. That encouraged me so much. There's a lot that I'm going to take and be able to apply to my life, and I hope the same is for you. Before I let you leave, I just want to remind you of our dinner parties. They are the heart and soul of Sanctuary Church. It's a time that we get to connect with friends and family. What better way to spend an evening than, around food and great conversation? And oftentimes that conversation leads to deep thoughts and deep conversations, or they're fairly light, but either way, we know that you will enjoy it, and we want you to connect with us there as well. So if you're interested in joining a dinner party, I encourage you to go to our website at sanctuarychurch.life, and there's a spot there, a tab there that you can click on dinner parties and comment. We'd love to connect with you during the week. So we hope you guys have a great day and a great rest of your week.
Hallelujah.